All right, just looking back at the game on Saturday, great win for our program and for our team. What a wild game that was just to be a part of in general. But we still got a ton of things to work on. You look at all the execution side of things and just the little mistakes here and there. We got to clean that up. Got to be not as reckless with the ball at times. We got to avoid those moments where you're slipping or you're not getting through. You're not getting through. You're forcing a throw when you know it's there, and there's probably something bad that's gonna, like with the receiver not going through on it. So we got to be more careful with the football. But again, I'm excited about the energy that they had, the emotion that they played with. I thought we were a very physical team. Very pleased with that. But I bet you Coach Walnick at South Alabama would probably say the same things about how sloppy of a game that was on both sides. So we got to clean up our execution side of those things. Like this is a tough league. Like you're sitting there really looking at the next 7 weeks, and I feel like it's just going to be a battle every single week moving forward. There's a lot of great teams in this conference. You look at that last game we played and how physical of a game that was. And South Alabama, unfortunately has to turn around and play on a Thursday night, and I know that they're worn down because our kids were pretty beat up in today's practice, moving around. You got to work their way through it, and you got to have some mental toughness, and you got to fight your way through all the injuries and just the soreness in general. So, but we're expecting another war and close game this weekend when you got a great Troy team coming in. You heard Brant talk about how good they are on defense. They're 8th nationally in defense. They're number 1 in the country on sacks and tackles for loss. They're very dynamic. I think it's a lot of guys that we are familiar with. You flip on the 2019 tape of them, and it's a lot of the same bodies running around there making plays. And they've just added a lot more depth, a lot more length in their pass rush. They got some good transfers from Auburn, Michigan, and Iowa in there that are pretty solid players now. So it's going to be a very tough challenge for us from an offensive perspective, looking at how good they are on defense. And you look at them on offense, they're typically a really good offense, and they are. I know Coach Chip Lindsey for a long time now, and I know what he's capable of doing and the things they've done to us the last 2 years. He's going to be ready for us. He's been battling some COVID protocols and some injuries as well. He's now onto a different quarterback right now, and he's starting to get healthy. And they put a complete game together last week versus a Georgia Southern team, which is going to give them a lot of momentum. But they're very dynamic. It's the same exact offense that put a ton of yards on us and scored a lot on us last year. So we got to be ready on offense. It's going to be a great on defense. It's going to be a very good challenge for both sides of the ball. Special teams wise, they got a Georgia transfer kicker in. They got a UConn punter transfer in, and they're really good players. Like the Georgia kid doesn't have a resume, but when you talk to their coaches, just about him, the Georgia coaches, they think he's a very great player, a very good player, and he has great kickoff ability and field goal ability. And then you got the punter in, and then their long snapper is considered one of the best in the country. So we've got I don't know how you rank long snappers, but like that's how that's what they say about him. And you look at the tape, and he's really good. So we've got a challenge in all 3 phases. I think that Troy is now starting to kind of hit get their mojo going right now. They're starting to get healthy, and they're starting to do some really good things. And we're expecting their best game. Excited to be back here at Bobcat Stadium on a 2:00 kickoff. It's supposed to be really low 70s. It's going to feel like fall for the first time in Texas, I feel like. And I think we're excited to get back out there again. But we got to finish out this week on a high note. We've got to have a better Wednesday practice. We got to fight through the soreness. We got to get our recovery going. We need to see how important it is to some of these kids on terms of doing some extra stuff outside of here, just to make sure that their bodies are ready to go, because it's going to be another battle again on Saturday. And at the end of Saturday will be the halfway point of the season, and we got 6 more to roll from there. So, questions?
A much better performance than the 2 games prior for the Bobcats. What do you, in your mind, what do you think was different against South Alabama than was before the bye week?
Yeah, you had 25 guys out versus Incarnate Word, and you had 21 guys out versus Eastern Michigan. Then you get 15 guys back, the week of game day, and there was just a depth. That was a very physical game, man, that we played on Saturday, and if we didn't have those 15 bodies back, it would have been a long day. it would have really been a long day because we had a lot of guys, end up, falling out a little bit and then going back in and fighting and putting guys in and moving guys around. So, I thought that was one of the reasons was depth. But I thought the energy was great. We emphasized it. We preached it all week. We talked about being the most excited team to play. The 3 seconds of reset, regardless if anything good or bad happens, we got to move on and play the next play. Staying close and understanding, everybody's going to go through adversity at some time in the game, and we need others to elevate their play in certain moments. And they kept the belief. I thought in the Eastern Michigan game when we got to the fourth quarter, we were pretty tapped out, and Eastern Michigan did a good job at physically dominating us in that fourth quarter. And that's why we lost that fourth quarter 21-0 in the Eastern Michigan game. And we got healthy over the bye week. We brought the energy. And when you're down 14, a lot of teams would quit in that fourth quarter, and we did a good job at battling our way back. And the ball bounced our way. We got some critical turnovers and some critical moments, and fired up for those kids to pull off a win like that, especially being down 14 in the fourth quarter.
What's the mood like been during practice after that win?
Mood's been good. Sunday was really good practice because it's light. But then you get to the work day today, they're bringing it, but they're working through a lot of stuff. They're sore, like a lot of the O-line, D-line, they're wanting to kind of take a break, but we're still pushing through and being tough on them to make sure that they can get the work in and get the recovery side of that stuff later in the week. But the energy is always better after a win, but we've got to get better. So there's been a lot of challenging going on because the transparency we talk about in here, they know that we had a good win, but there was a lot of things that bounced our way late in the game to go because we still played a pretty sloppy game at times. So we got to focus on the execution side of it, and I think that they know the expectation of the belief and the confidence and the energy and playing team football and being there for each other, like they're and fight until the end. They got that. Now we got to clean up the execution side of that, and that's been the emphasis right now. But overall, it's they're still in a good spot, but we got to press them and get better.
Coach, expand it just a little bit more about the conditioning, both mentally and physically, because you mentioned the fourth quarter in Eastern Michigan, it wasn't there, and then you look at the 4 overtimes. Clinton, I remember you mentioning that South Alabama, their guys were kind of dragging. The offensive line, they had hands on the hips. They didn't
Yeah.
have any mojo at all. So talk about y'all's conditioning, just from 2 weeks earlier to last.
Yeah, and you go into the fourth quarter and we didn't quit, obviously, and when we showed up and we found kind of a rhythm offensively. We got some turnovers on defense. You got a turnover on defense, and we capitalized. We got them to punt on that with 4 minutes to go in the game, and I'm telling you, that's a good defense, and every yard was hard earned, and our kids fought, and literally you had to take it all the way down to the 1 yard line on a 4th down and 1 with 17 seconds to go in the game to win it. So you love the mental side, the mental toughness of it all. Just the physical side of it, and you go into overtime, and I said this after the game, I understand now why you go to a 2-point conversion competition, because people were dropping left and right, and you think about it, what South Alabama's got to go through right now, where they got to turn right back around after a 4 overtime loss on a away game, travel back to Mobile, try to get healthy, and I know their depth chart's just probably looking like ours. A lot of guys that are beat up, and then have a Tuesday, Wednesday practice. So you're probably going to have to restructure your practice and then line it up on a national TV game on Thursday and go. So, that's going to really test, mental toughness and physical toughness there. But overall, with our team, just proud of how they kept fighting. They've always fought, but we executed clean, at the end. And typically we've always fought and we didn't execute and make those plays like we typically do, and we finally did. We finally pulled it off.
You played Toe Groves in that game. You returned some punts. You had a catch. It was a season debut. Was he pretty healthy coming out of that game? How did he do?
He's all right. He tells me he's feeling great, but because he's such a great kid and he's got a lot of optimism about him. But you got to monitor him. He still favors his foot a little bit on a lot of things. I think he got a little bit twisted up on one of those punt returns, but he made a crucial 4th and 5 catch, and I had seen it because he's such a talented kid and he's been coached well, at North Carolina with that group of guys with Coach Longo and them, where he catches in tight turns and gets upfield and gets you some few yards. So you see the potential of what he's got, Still not completely healthy, but we're gonna keep easing him in throughout the course of this entire season because it's a long season, a physical season ahead, and we're gonna need all the bodies we need.
Coach, looking back at Brady's performance, he had the 3 picks in the first half and then seemed to really help turn things around in the second half. What do you feel like was the difference after halftime?
Yeah, Brady, again, he has a short-term memory, like he does. Like I talked about, was there any thought about, going to another quarterback after 3 interceptions? And you look at the interceptions and you talk it through and you look at the Jumbotron, you see it and you see like a lot of it's, kind of a little out of his control on some of it, and he understands that too. He's still frustrated with, from the performance of the offense. But, he always has a belief in himself that he's going to go back and make the play. And we got into that rhythm. We started helping him out. Protection was clean in that second half, and he did a lot of good things, man. And I think he kind of put the team on his back. And there were some moments where you could sense the energy of the teammates when he pulled a read. I think it was in overtime, and he tried to hurdle a guy at the 5-yard line, or I think that could have been in the fourth quarter. I can't remember, but like you just see the fight. You see like how bad he wants it, and it really sparked the energy of the sidelines. And I think those kids are really bought into Brady right now, just based off of how tough of a gritty of a performance that was that he did. So again, like short-term memory with that kid, and he just keeps moving on, keeps fighting, and he comes out to practice and he still has the same approach and competes and gets better and has a really good understanding of it.
You mentioned on Saturday one of those was kind of a miscommunication with the receiver. Is that something you guys have emphasized this week, kind of cleaning that up a little bit?
It's the execution. Like what happened on that one, like it was JB. We had a slant that we're going to hit in the second window, and sometimes Brady's a little too he's shorter, so he didn't see him, so he thought Brady was in scramble mode. So instead of running through the second window, he turned it up the field to go to a scramble, and unfortunately, it was a pick. So.
Coach, sometimes it takes one play to kind of create a spark and turn
I
things.
know where you're going with this.
The Sam Obiang play, how big was that in that moment that it happened?
Yeah, it's credited as a fumble, but we're crediting it as an interception in this room, just so y'all know. Just I thought it was unbelievable. Sammy's been playing extremely well all year, and that moment really turned the whole momentum into our favor. It really did, and I forgot what yard line it was on, like in between the 30 and 40-yard line over there on the far hash, and you just saw the ball pop out. I think they're running a flea flicker on that, and we had some penetration up front, which was good. And then you just see Sammy, grab the ball, and like I'm saying, everybody lost it on the sidelines because everybody has a ton of respect for Sammy, and a lot of those O linemen and D linemen, they lose, they don't understand the importance because they don't really get talked about much, and because they're always being selfless and holding gaps and and hitting certain deals, and just for him to get that, the team, like, they lost their minds, especially Sunday in here. They're really fired up for him when we gave him a shout out in here for his performance and his so-called interception. So that was a play that really turned the outcome of that game around. So I was really happy for Sammy.
A physical night in the fourth quarter and overtime, especially as a play caller. What did you see as far as running the football? It's really kind of, I think, when you started to have consistent success.
Yeah, I went into a tempo into the boundary. We had a good run play at the beginning of the first drive and of that drive, and just started to press the tempo a little bit to see if we can really formation them into the boundary and see if we can get an added edge on it. And the first play hit, we ended up getting a holding on that one with Calvin, with Tweeter, with Chandler Spites into the boundary. But you saw the opportunity to get in there, and we didn't want them to make any adjustments. Probably one of the reasons why we're having a lot of success with it is that they couldn't figure it out, probably because we're running fast and we had the edge on it. Well, they made the adjustment later in the game, but that right side tempo, outside zone, formation in the boundary was something that was really beneficial for us, and we just kept running it. And I told everybody I was going to keep running it until they stopped it. And they had some good adjustments, but Brady pulled the ball on a couple of them and made some pretty critical runs and some chunk yardage too. So it was just a good compliment. We've ran that all the time in practice. That's what we scored on in the FIU game. We talked about it all through the bye week on things that we were good at. And really that FIB, formation in the boundary, outside tempo zone was something that we really put an emphasis on, and it sparked some momentum because we were kind of inconsistent with the run game. But when we started hitting some chunk yardage on those plays, like you saw the confidence, you saw the O-line, looking at me, telling me to run it again, and the running backs ran extremely hard. All three of them did. Brady was managing it well in the O-line. You just saw that those guys were playing a lot of snaps, and we wore them down, and we ended up getting some pretty good plays. But those guys, if you think about it, the South Alabama defense played a ton of plays in that last drive of the fourth quarter and through overtime. So they're pretty exhausted after that. We were too. We just kept preaching confidence. But like when you have a successful play, you feel a lot better about yourself, and those kids could line back up and do it again. So it was a good momentum swing for us.
South Alabama was pretty highly regarded against the run coming in. Troy, I think, same thing. What similarities and or differences do you see from Troy up front?
Yeah, Troy's very, very talented. I think this is one of the better defenses we've seen. I think it's, right up there with Baylor. I think their interior their interior D linemen, number 5 and number 95. They've been there forever. They're wrestlers. They're really tough guys. A wrestling background. What they've done, they've added great length and great pass rushers. That's the thing that you see. They go get the quarterback. They lead the country in sacks. Yeah. They're averaging over 10 negative plays a game. So we've got to combat that as much as we can. They're simple on the back end. They run quarter versions of quarters and quarter halves and cover 3, and then they'll sprinkle in man here and there because that defensive front can get after you, man. They can. So we've got to be able to hold up in protection. We've got to run the ball efficiently and make sure we stay out of those longer situations because when they pin their ears back, they can go get you now.
Coach, we're talking to Troy and Sione today. Can you tell us a little bit about what those two guys have brought to the defense?
Yeah. We'll start with Troy. Troy just, coming in. Troy's you'll love talking to him. He's always got a smile on his face. I'm saying he's got great energy. I was in the huddle today. We're about to do a 2-minute drill, and I'm calling the play, and Troy was right in the middle of the huddle, just sitting there, just kind of messing with me at times too. So, and he's a great kid. And the thing about him is he loves the game of football. I'm saying that was the first time I've seen a DB break on a play like that and get a pick, this year. And Troy, I was wanting him to house call it, but he turned back, and I think he ran the quarterback over. I think he tried to just run through him, if you guys remember that, and I was laughing at it because he's just a physical kid. He loves contact. He's a guy that loves it. He had over 100 tackles in his last year at Utah State. He's a very tough physical presence, loves the game of football, and was fired up for him that he got that interception. And then Sione was unbelievable. We addressed some things over the bye week, and we had some guest speakers, and I really saw him flip the switch in practice last week. And I'm telling you, when you have a great week of practice, that normally translates to the field. And I'm saying he practiced with energy and emotion and physicality, and you're like, man, he's gonna have a good game. I didn't know he was gonna have 14 tackles, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, and become Sun Belt Defensive Player of the week. But it's well deserved, because he put a lot of effort and work into it, and he just played with the physicality. Even if on the 2-point play at the end of the game, they threw a quick game pass, but Sione knocked out the center and the left guard just alone. He blitzed the A gap, and he just is playing with the physical presence, and he's got a great energy about him right now. I'm really proud of him, really happy for him. Because he's played a lot of football, and then to have his moment and come up and get that critical fumble recovery in overtime. Still don't know how he got it, but he found a way to get it, and that won us the game. Ultimately, because we missed the field goal, he ends up getting the turnover. It was an unbelievable play by him. So happy for Sione, and he's out there again, had great energy today, and he brought it again. So hopefully he has another great week next week.
Troy's kind of been a monkey on Texas State's back since they've gotten into the Sun Belt. Haven't won a game yet. Is that something that y'all are thinking about this week and wanting to get that off the back, or is it just one game at a time, as you've been saying?
If with us, it's one game at a time. With me, I look at it and I try to figure out what we can do differently, because this program has never beat Troy. They're 0 for, I think they're 0 and 8 or 0 and 6, like whatever it is. They've gotten after us the last 2 years. So this is definitely a game that we've got to show up. We got to play. We're going to expect their best game. They're getting a lot of momentum coming back. They're getting their players back. They're getting their identity back. Because they had to move and shake over the last few weeks. And I know Coach Lindsey's going to put together a good product. So we've got to focus one day at a time with us. We've got to focus on a Wednesday practice with us. We can't get too far ahead. We still got so much to improve, as you guys see. And, so we're still focusing on just really the attention to detail and the little things, and hopefully that translates to the game. Because if we can focus on us right now, then the rest will take care of itself in the game.
Any significant injuries that happened this week? I know you talked about Toe, kind of bringing him back slowly. What about like Russell or Nick McCann?
Russell was good. Anyone? I didn't mean
Nick
to cut you
McCann?
off.
I just didn't see him play a lot. That's why I didn't know if he was.
Yeah,
banged up.
he's moving it. He's in and out. Like Nick
Okay.
didn't practice much. He had a death in the family last week, and but he's back out there and going again. Russell looked good. He had his moments though. Like he's still like it's hard to play. You got to play yourself into shape, And when he was out for about 6 weeks, 7 weeks roughly, like he was exhausted at time. He's a guy that's extremely sore right now. A guy that needs the recovery aspect and just getting back in the swing of it. But was proud of how he played. He's going to clean up a lot of things. DJ went down, but he was out there running around pretty well. More than anything, there's nothing severe. It's more of just kind of we're banged up a little bit. We got to work through the soreness. We got to make sure that we're living in that recovery room and in the athletic training room until we can put it all on the line again on Saturday, and then we're gonna have to do it all over again because you watch these games in our league. It's a physical league. Like you got one tonight. I think that's going to be a pretty good one. So I'm kind of fired up for that. Like the Sun Belt Tuesday night game, man. Like I think they play again on Wednesday of next week. So it keeps it interesting. So it'll be fun to at least watch two others go at it, and then we'll do it again on Saturday.
Coach Michael Levette, I think, was another name.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't play.
Levette was he's been kind of banged up. He's had an issue that we've always been. It's a rest type thing, So we knew that, and that's why Rod went in, and Rod had a really good game, and we already had that prepared. It wasn't just a spur of the moment type deal, but he's out there again. We'll test him again, and then we'll see where we're at with it as well. But with him, he's got an injury that just he needs to rest it up, and when he's rested and fully rested, then he'll be 100%, and then we'll have to monitor him again. It may have to happen. He's just got one of those nagging injuries.